I've said, Spencer Strider, that surgery okay, I was hopeful that the MRI would show nothing and he'd be okay, but once there was, quote, "damage" and then a sprain to the ulnar collateral, and a sprain is a tear, even partial, it's still a tear. I mean, he's had this first Tommy John surgery in 2019. Now here we are with, quote, "damage" and a sprain. Unfortunately, from my perspective, a second Tommy John surgery is at this point inevitable and a matter he's 25. It's inevitable and a matter of when, not if. Is it this week, next month, next season? But it's coming. What's your intel on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely coming. You don't see, Dr. Meister, without thinking you're going to come out of there without having surgery. I mean, they could try to, do an injection and see what happens, and see if you get away with it for 2 months. Because now you're talking about if he needs nerve surgery, he may not be back until 2026 or late in the 2025 season. The other thing to consider is the success rate for the first time Tommy John patients is about 95%, drops down about 50% second time around. So we'll see what happens here. Maybe they'll say, can we get away from it, right now and see, but eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah, in my impression, just so you know, that this whole Tommy Johns work great, and I've even had patients say, "Well, let me just do the Tommy John right now so I won't have to deal with it." I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
work that way, right? And yeah, I would say 95% success rate on Tommy Johns is probably a tad high. You're selecting a population, but I also believe that the revision or second Tommy John success rate at 50% is probably a tad low. And the reason why is historically, you don't have your second Tommy John until you're, you know, late in your career if you do. But now that we have kids like Spencer Strider having it as teenagers, I think that 50% rate of return and recovery will probably rise some, and that's good, but it's never going to get up into the 90s, but it should be higher than 50 in my impression.